Let's talk about Jack Dorsey and CNN. This is from The Hill. Jack Dorsey says he saw CNN try to create conflict in Ferguson.
Tim, you were in Ferguson.
Yeah, and I would say I believe Jack Dorsey is right. Now, can I say I witnessed whatever it is he saw? No.
Okay.
What I can say is CNN was there on the ground, and I would describe it as problematic.
And it was Jake Tapper, right?
Oh, everyone was there.
Oh, wow.
There was that. Who's that portly woman in the pink dress?
Yamich. Oh no, she's not with CNN. My bad. I don't
No,
remember.
no, she's I can't remember her name, but she's like standing on the street, and then the gunshots start ringing out, and she goes, "Oh, oh, 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 oh," and it's like, "What are you doing? Move! People are shooting guns." But no, Don Lemon reported there was no tear gas while I was getting tear gassed, so I'm just like, if Jack Dorsey were to tell me that, I'd be like, yeah, because when the big news crews came down to West Florissant, I heard one journalist say something. He was talking to someone, and then the part of the conversation I heard was, "Well, I'm just here for networking. It's a great opportunity," or something like that.
Wow.
Because I think Anderson Cooper was there at some point. I'm not sure, but if Jack Dorsey says he saw that, I'd be like, that's about in line with the BS I saw them doing, like crappy reporting, no security, just flailing all over the place, getting things wrong, and I would not be surprised if they were trying to egg things on. Because I've also seen in other instances of protests, news crews ask protesters to pose for them.
And that's essentially what he's saying. But then instead of do they have the actual phrasing up there? Because I think what he was saying is something about like they asked them to pose. I watched them try to create conflict in filming it, causing the protesters to chant FCNN. So it seems like and this is the way I'm reading it because it's worded kind of weirdly. But it sounds like he's saying they were trying to pose the protesters, and instead the protesters turned on CNN.
And this was all in reference to Brian Stelter said, Tucker Carlson is always selling the same thing, in reference to an analytical piece in the Washington Post that said Fox News was selling doubt. Dorsey responded, "And you are all selling hope." And then people were like, "He's selling the truth." Jack went off. Like,
yeah, he's
well,
lit
Tim,
up.
you've spent and I've been meaning to pick your brain about this. You've spent obviously several hours with Mr. Dorsey on a famous interview / debate.
you saw that viral video?
With that I sent you that this morning, where Tim asks Vijaya of the safety and policy safety and trust team on Twitter, would Twitter allow someone to spread what's considered misinformation about vaccines?
No. I said, would you? So I could be wrong, but I think it was, would you allow someone to share information about vaccines that could be wrong and maybe get someone hurt?
Right.
And they said that's not a violation of our rules.
She said that's not a violation of our rules. Did not age well.
2019.
That was years ago.
But point being that you spent all that time with her and Jack Dorsey. So what is your take on this? People are calling it the Dorsey redemption arc. But
Well, I've been calling it that.
what do you think? What do you think?
A couple things. Maybe Jack said a whole bunch of really great things when I went there and met with him the first.
He did.
He was telling me before the show, he was like, "I want decentralized, immutable social media on the blockchain." And I said, "Whoa, that's beyond what I'm even talking about. And I'm just saying, don't ban people for saying naughty words. You're saying like everything you ever post will be forever." And I'm like,
you started shaming him. You're like, there needs to be more regulation on Twitter, Jack.
yeah, I was like, wow, I'm on the other side of that one. I was like,
Get out of here, Murray Rothbard.
Yeah, I think people should be allowed to remove it. It shouldn't be permanent. But afterwards, we talked about path to redemption. Never happened. And after a little while, I was like, all of these things that Jack keeps talking about, he never does. That he could do, he won't do. So I don't trust him. I don't believe him. He's the CEO. What's going on? If he really believed in it, he'd come out and be like, guys, here's why it can't be done. Here's what I'm struggling with. But he keeps things a secret. It could be that as CEO, he was tied up and couldn't make these moves. I wonder, he's a billionaire. At what point does he just be like, I don't need to be a billionaire, dude. I can be a 100 millionaire or a 10 millionaire, and I'm going to tell people the truth.
I think he's probably on an NDA or non-compete clause of some sort.
What's the worst case scenario?
They sue him to oblivion.
What does oblivion mean?
I don't know. Take all his net wealth away.
They can't take all of it away. He'll be rich
But
forever.
that's his point.
But why would he? I don't think he's ready to make that sacrifice. But I know what you mean. But I don't think he's going to go.
That's fine.
There.
Jack, it is my opinion that Jack, he tweeted out so much to be said that can't be said or something to that effect. Okay, then either he prefers to be really rich as opposed to help fix the problems, or he doesn't think telling the truth would actually do anything of value, so he won't say it anyway.
So that idea that he's talked about before, also in 2019, because I was kind of tweet mining his timeline for stuff that he said in the past about this. And his idea for decentralizing Twitter was more than just Twitter itself. It was actually the idea of turning Twitter into an internet protocol. And so the idea being is that, and if you remember the original origin story, and I think a lot of these like tech origin stories are kind of like come from a marketing department as opposed to what's actually happened. But the idea was that it was supposed to be just sort of this open group text or an open chat room. And that was the reason for the character limit, so that it was a chat room that you could share with anybody who had access and they followed you and they could get in, right? And so the idea being that it was based off of SMS, it was based off of text message technology. So that's obviously an open protocol. So if you have an Android and I have an iPhone, I can text you, you can text me, we're across platforms. The idea then for a decentralized protocol based on Twitter then, open source. So let's say you have, let's say you use Getter, let's say you use Truth, let's say whatever social media you're using Truth. That's on this. There are people who are on it, and Twitter, that you would be able to interact with people across the platforms, that I could see those posts if I followed that person, even if they weren't expressly on my platform.
Yeah, that's what we're building with our charity, or the charity that we're getting revved up at the moment. That's completely the future of the internet. I think Jack's wanted it, but he's been
a protocol, and you can't. Yeah, you can't.
Yeah, it's a piece of software that no one controls. It's just a decentralized software unit.
It's just like inverted email. Imagine you'd go to the fire hose, the feed, whatever.
Right.
Anyone can host it. Your account is your own website. So people wouldn't follow, at Timcast. They would follow, at timcast.com or whatever. And then all of my tweets and videos are on my own website. But if you're following on the decentralized app, you can see those things. I think that's the future, because then no one can ban you. You're just there on the internet, and people can subscribe, kind of like RSS. Mm-hmm. All we got to do is build it.
No, it's exactly like RSS.
Yeah, right. RSS 3.0. That was the beginning of the idea. It's becoming different with what we're working on with everybody. And I'm not ready to announce exactly what it is yet, but it's very, very close to an alpha.
So he teed up something, Dorsey, in a recent tweet, that they do have a project. It's called like Blue Sky, I think.
It's been out for a while. I've DM'd
in this.
This is the thing. I've DM'd with him so often, over the years, like not all the time, but enough, talking about stuff like this, that I was like, this dude's just lying. Because he's going to say these things publicly, and he's like, we're working on Blue Sky, and then nothing happens. It's remarkable because...
Which sound great. They all sound great.
Dude, if I had 1/10 of Jack Dorsey's wealth, it'd be done. You'd have an alpha in a few months.
Well, you need developers. Even
yeah,
I mean, everybody's looking for
billions of dollars.
But money isn't a developer. You need to find the people that do it.
Dude, come on.
And then you got to find people that like each other, that want to work together.
That's true, but if you had $20 million to spend on the project, it would be an alpha within, 6 months.
I don't know, man. You could throw a lot of money at a group of people and get nothing. So
dude, it's been 3 years.
It's all about
it's been years.
But what they need is organization. I know people with lots of money, they need people to organize and do it.
Right. If you are worth $20 million, you can do it.
Ian, are you extending your services to Jack Dorsey?
I'm doing it for free, baby. Jack, join us, Jack.
It's like, we're trying to set up a nonprofit that has no money to get this going, and it's taking forever to get the filings, but it's been like 6 months, and there's people already working on it. Yeah, so I don't know what they're doing at Blue Sky, but 3 years on, I'm like, Jack, I really don't believe you're working on this.
I wonder what he's doing.
Yeah, it's whispering sweet nothings into your ears. You want to know what he's doing? Here's what people are saying. Elon Musk might take over Twitter. All of a sudden, Jack Dorsey comes out as this rogue figure who's like, I've had enough. It's time to be honest and tell the truth. And now people on the right are going to be like, yeah, you go, Jack. And then Jack's like, we don't need Elon. I'm here. And then once Elon gets pushed out, Jack's going to be like, okay, so let's start censoring everybody again.
Here's the thing. If we need to censor everyone on Twitter all the time.
You're
not being censored.
You got to do that with
Jack.
I
wasn't looking at you when you started that, and I thought that was Jack Dorsey.
Yeah. He was actually sitting in the other chair the whole time, and we just didn't know.
How did I miss the nose ring?
Here's the thing.
But
I've asked Jack to come on a couple times. He always has like yes at some point.
Hell yeah.
He's busy. I'd love to actually have him talk about these things. The issue is
now's the time.
Look, the first time he went on Joe Rogan, Joe had a huge backlash. He got all these thumbs down because Jack was just saying garbage nonsense. And then they didn't actually get to the core of the issues. Then when I go on with Jack, Vijaya, and Joe, they didn't. They did not expect to get these questions that I had for them, because they probably assumed it was going to be like some right wing dude just being like, "Why'd you ban Milo?" And instead, we had like philosophical questions about the ethics of the rules and the world views and things like this. All of the things they said, they're just spinning. They're spinning a tale.
Yeah, I think because he's on the board, he has he can't disparage the company, so he can't really say
a fiduciary duty.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we were talking about this earlier in the show, but
he likes being a billionaire more than telling the truth.
It goes into what, Tim, you were saying a second ago, which is that as soon as somebody on the left who has been our enemy for virtually their entire time in public life says something remotely sensible, we go, yes, this person is speaking truth. We love them. And look, when someone says something that's true, we should absolutely celebrate the fact that they've said something true. But you can't just start looking up to these people as heroes. They've really got to earn it by showing results.
He pointed
unfortunately, he hasn't.
He said, I think at one point, that he realizes now that he was part of the problem of creating big tech. He was like, he really wanted a free speech network, and he did it, but he didn't. He made some pitfalls. Like with Chris Pavlovsky, you're out there, like what pitfalls to avoid. He went public. That's a pitfall. Be careful. He made his code private. Be careful. That's a pitfall, because then people can control it when you're no longer there and you don't have access to it anymore. So he's made those mistakes, and I think the great thing about Jack is he's like been through the gauntlet, and that'd be why he's a great interview.
Well, this is the theory
honest.
that he's this is like Dr. Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster, right? I want to create life, I want to help people, but instead I create this thing that ends up causing more harm than good.
Yeah, no, I am not saying anything about Dorsey, what he's done, whether he is, I just want to make assumptions in good faith and say he does mean what he's saying unless it's proven otherwise. But conservatives can't jump on the he's great horse, right, without seeing some actual results.
I'll throw this out there. I love Twitter, right? I'm coming up on, it'll be 10 years that I've been on Twitter next month. And it is clearly the simplest, most efficient mass communication system that's ever been invented in the history of mankind, right? And Jack Dorsey was part of that. So like everything else, I'll always start with that.
You just made me realize I've been on Twitter for, I think, 13 years.
Yeah.
13 years.
Like I just wanted to go back to the way it was without all this extra stuff. That's it. That's literally it.
When it was the free speech.
It seemed nice, but it was still proprietary. They were still spying on you. It always seems nice in the beginning, and then they started.
But Alex Jones was there, and he was funny.
Well, Jones never actually posted himself. That was always staff.
But I just mean like his videos.
His videos were there, yeah. But
So
and you could
they-
and if you didn't like it, you could unfollow it
Yeah, you block him
or block
now.
it.
It's just it's become
mute's a
so
great function.
boring.
Yeah,
You guys want to know the truth? You want to know what all that Twitter really is to me? Is I follow news organizations, journalists, and personalities, and so I'll see like Reuters tweet something, and then when I retweet a news story, this is usually in the past month or so, it's just like reminding myself of the story.
Right.
So I can go back and look for it later. I don't care to interact for the most part. I will sometimes, or I'll just post garbled nonsense because it's hilarious how triggered and riled up everybody gets. I tweeted schools should have religious studies because, grade schools, because kids have questions and
yes,
teachers
they
should give answers, and the teacher should tell the students to keep it a secret from their parents. Like, I just like posting things like that.
So the importance though of Twitter is because it serves as a narrative bottleneck, particularly for the West. You can see this most predominantly right now with the war in Ukraine, that the opinion makers and the opinion making, it all starts on Twitter. So then that filters down to whether it be CNN Plus, whether it be Netflix. There's been examples of TV shows that were saved just because they had great, Twitter followings.
Right.
And from a geostrategic standpoint, we've seen that so much of this comes off of Twitter. Meanwhile, to use Ukraine as an example, because so much stuff gets censored, if you're on Telegram, it's like you're watching a completely different narrative because it's unfiltered on there. Now, obviously, sure, there's going to be bad actors on both sides, but Telegram is uncensored and it's very heavily focused on that, whereas Twitter is heavily censored, and you're getting a completely different narrative.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.